Welcome to the Heather Penny podcast. We're excited to have you here. We've got some great guests joining us, a lot of profound wisdom and insight that I think you're going to learn a lot, because I know we get to learn from one another and we just get to join our collective wisdom together and move out into this world so that we can get more clarity, more confidence, and more courage. More importantly, so that you can step into the life that only you are made for. So let's dive in. So today's guest, we have Bob Goff. Love this guy. He is a personal friend of mine, and I enjoy talking with him. I've gotten to do coaching with him, but he is the New York Times bestseller of Love Does, Everybody Always, Dream Big. Those are just to name a few. And I have loved each of his books. It's a fun way of how I like to start my morning, is reading one of Bob Goff's books, because it just inspires me for the day and reminds me that I get to live a big, beautiful life. So it's going to be a great conversation, and I just can't wait for you to hear it. Hey, Bob, it's so fun to have you here today.
Yes, thanks for letting me be on the podcast. I'm just so delighted to be with you and your friends. And yeah, this is good stuff.
Oh, yeah, we've been having lots of fun. We just celebrated 2,000 downloads, so we've been having a great time.
Get out of town. That's a lot of people. That's like a small Midwest town.
Well, for those of you out here, Bob Goff, and I consider him now a friend. And we've been working together. I've been doing some coaching with Bob, and then I've gotten to follow him over to the Oaks and having a lot of fun over there, and join him for retreats, couples retreats, writers retreats, speaking retreats. So I just asked him to join us on our show today so he could talk a little bit about Dream Big, and we could talk a little bit about our coaching time together.
Yeah, come on. Let's just jump in.
All right. Well, Bob, I want to ask the question I think a lot of people wonder. You're such a big dreamer, but when it comes down to practical steps, what are some things that you really want to tell people to say, yeah, this is how you get your dream in motion?
Yeah, there's some of the things like pushes and pulls. Like some of the stuff that can pull you is a desire to make a difference in the world, and then drilling down on that, because I think everybody wants to make a difference. But just say then of the many ways, like just pick one or two. And then it isn't long before I start thinking about viability. So I have a desire to do some stuff that has a little bit longer fuse. There's 2,300 one-day insects in the world, and they just live for one day and then they're gone. And so of all these various species of one-day insects, like I just want to be one that just lasts longer than just a moment. Yet other people, in an act of kindness that's generated spontaneously, they can just like you do it. It's you pull over, you help somebody change the tire, and that's beautiful too. But just kind of my bent is, among many of the filters, is this viable? So how could I start a school and make it viable? So one way to do that is write a book. Like, so if people like do that, then I can fund that. So I have this source of viability. So it isn't that it's easy or that all the planets have lined up. Oftentimes these, for anybody listening, they'll have an ambition that's challenging, but to figure out a way that you could stay at it. Like what would be a way that I could do this over the arc of the next 20 years rather than maybe the next 20 minutes.
Okay. I love that you said that. I'm already thinking of your Thursday rule. How do you know when something is no longer viable?
Yeah. So if for those that haven't read a book, I quit things on Thursday. And what the reason behind that is really I wanted to take away all the backstory that you feel like you have to infill, like why I'm leaving the job and it's been great, but I've changed, and or the relationship, it isn't you, it's me, or it isn't me, it's you. Just saying. So I just decided I was going to quit stuff on Thursday, and I found that I was better at collecting things and starting things than finishing things. And so I just start letting one thing go. And sometimes it's people. I mean, we run an organization, and we did a recent change of some of the folks. We're going to change gears, and probably I would say 4x what we'll do this next year than what we did the previous year. There's a lot of people in need, and there's a lot of resources that are out there, and I'm trying to get more resources to more people. And I wasn't mad. We had terrific people working for us, but I wanted to have more people that could get the right number of resources, the right people. And we just wasn't keeping pace with the opportunities we had. So
Mm,
that's even to reflect and to say, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is this not helpful? Is this, if it didn't get me there faster, then I'm not going to do it. I looked at a new place to move into because we've kind of
mm,
outgrown the space with the additional people. And I'm thinking about the same things about viability.
mm,
So I think if you could do just a quick little audit, it could be a great idea. And to say, is it a viable idea? Not an easy idea. Starting a
mm.
school in Mogadishu ain't easy. But there's a viability about it. I know if I started it, we could keep that thing going for a couple decades.
Wow. Do you use any kind of evaluative tools along the way to say, is this still viable? Is it people you talk to, or is it just with your gut instinct? Or how do you assess whether the dream is still kind of working out and still viable?
Yeah, so you could do it quantitatively. Some of my
Mhm.
friends will rate. You could just think of this like take all the things, both the impediments and then the additions. You could just say, this is a plus 10, this is a minus 4, this is a plus 3. And then you could say, unless the number I end up with is 20 or more, I'm out. So you could just do it quantitatively. And there's a subjective factor to figuring that out. But you could just say, instead of just saying, I'm just not feeling good about it anymore. It'd be good to just tease that out, particularly if you have something that worked. You were with us out at the Oaks not too long
Mhm.
ago, and we have these 10 cows out in the field. We'll make that 9. Like we came out like this morning, and one of them is like a really long sleep. So rather than just bury the cow, we're figuring out like, why did it die? Like,
Oh.
so that we're not burying a second cow. And so that idea, if you had an idea and it didn't work, don't just bury the cow. Why is it sleeping? Why is it not breathing while it's not sleeping? So to just figure out kind of murder board, what happened, what could we
Mhm.
have done different, what was right about that, what was wrong, and even do that on things that went wildly successfully. Just say
Mm.
like, what was the thing that made it just such a moment there, and try to say, what could we do to try to recreate more of those moments?
Mm. Well, something that I've learned from you that I've loved watching is this awareness of how you surround yourself with people. Because, we're only as good as who we surround ourselves with. The dreams can only get legs on them, so to speak, with the team that we pull together. So it's been fun watching you of these amazing people that come into your life that know what to do about how to get the cows for you, how to get the goats. I got to talk with Stephanie a little bit, and she was telling me about Ferris wheels and hot balloons, all these things. And I just thought, how does he do that? How do you bring such amazing people around you to get these dreams to get traction?
Well, I would say, isn't that what you do with people? Like you just pull alongside them with your
Yeah.
coaching and your words of encouragement, both written, like and spoken, but to just be really mindful about who gets in the kind of inner circle. People that won't like pour cold water over your like red hot dream. That
Mm,
they oftentimes it's a way for expressing love and engagement, but they're just not reading the room that you happen to be in.
mhm,
And you're in a room that where you need some encouragement along the way. So people that are good at kind of reading the room, knowing what's going on, and that you yourself have done your part, being situationally aware. So I'm
mhm.
since I saw you the last, I'm now a grandpa all over again.
Oh,
So
yes,
little
Henry.
Henry has arrived, and so I'm in the hunt. I haven't quite spoken about it, Sweet Maria, but in the hunt for a miniature horse. And so a miniature horse is 30 inches tall when they're full grown. Is that crazy? It's like a dog.
Yeah.
Um, but this little miniature horse, and I'm sure I'm going to have it out in the backyard eating the grass on Christmas Day when the kids arrive. Now, this brand new grandchild that's arrived, he doesn't even know he has arms. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't even, as he has not become self aware yet.
Yeah.
But my 2.5 year old will, and he'll
Mm,
remember getting this. And then it won't be just for the big surprise in 15 minutes. on Christmas Day, but to just say there's a viability about bring that up to the Oaks and have the little miniature horse meet people when they're just arriving and all
Mm.
that. And so I just, when I'm thinking about who do I surround myself, I want to surround myself with people and activities that all are moving in the same direction. It's towards encouragement and
Mhm.
helping people figure out who they are, kind of deal with your ish and whatever it is that needs some attention to give it that place, create a really safe environment to do that, but full of whimsy and some surprises, but it's a planned spontaneity
Mm.
that it's like it actually takes some logistics. When people pull up, they'll be like, a horse, of course. Um, but there are actually some moving parts beneath that. And I won't tell people to count to 10 when they see my cows. So, okay, let's call it 9. Bad baker's dozen. So does that make sense that we would,
Yep.
for each of us, that there's going to be some fun, go for it stuff. There's
Yeah.
going to be some reverses, some setbacks. What's a bad day for me is a really bad day for a cow. Um, so to not that we compare what God creates because he doesn't, but that we would say that in context, a setback for me in this is really an inconvenience.
Mhm.
Like leukemia, that's a problem.
Mhm.
Having something bad happen or missing an opportunity, like that's not a problem. That's just Tuesday.
Mhm. I think one of the things that, I do work with a lot of people in coaching, and I myself have lived big dreams and flopped big dreams too. And I think one of the things that I really learned as I try and meet people where they're at is there's so much vulnerability in stepping out into a dream. And I'm just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit, because I think people look at you and they think, "Oh, Bob doesn't feel vulnerable." He's amazing. He's got everything together. And I think what I've loved is just your transparency on that. But would you share with everyone else just kind of a little bit about that idea of vulnerability and kind of dreaming big?
Yeah. So vulnerability comes in so many different flavors. And one of those, like, say, relational vulnerability, like
Mhm.
if you trust big and you put a lot of stock in somebody and then they do something squirrely, or it was may not be squirrely for them, but it was certainly different than you were thinking, then you could just say, you can experience disappointment and setbacks. And I think we all have done that. Where it becomes a problem is where you make a rule around that to deal with the
Mm.
setback or the hurt or the woundedness. You make a rule, a stupid rule, like, I'll never do that again. Like, I'll never risk, as somebody gets dumped in high school and they say, I'm never going deep with anybody again. I'm never going to share my heart with someone, or
Mhm.
you're in a business and you were counting on the big promotion that didn't come and you made a rule that said, insert here, stupid rule. And what I want to do is revisit the rules that you make. Like, what agreements did you make with yourself? And to say, can we renegotiate the deal? Like,
Mm.
with yourself, to say, like, maybe I will risk again. That sure, it's painful, but living in isolation is as well. Um,
Mhm.
and so, and I'm saying read the room. You're where I teach at San Quentin, and I was there on Friday. And it's a racially and ethnically divided yard. So there's
Mm.
areas you don't go in if you're not that same race or ethnicity.
Mm.
And so I've been walking around this basketball court, giving it a pretty wide berth because you're not supposed to, like, cut the corner because,
Mhm.
like, you'll get
Mhm.
shanked. Like, it's just not
Mm.
supposed to work out that way. So after, I'd say, 5 years of walking way around, there's these guys that are in there and they're all the same ethnicity and their, like, neck size is their waist size. Like, they're just big guys. And I decided to put one foot inside the court. They saw me walking by and I had their icon. So I put one foot inside the court. I had one foot outside the court, but it was like, I'm in. And then there was that moment. Is like, is this where I run away like a 13-year-old girl? Or do I, like, and the guy bounced the basketball over to me. I'm like, awesome, 5 years. And I'm like, now it's my big moment. And so I threw the ball up in the air. I couldn't say taking a shot would be generous. Missed the entire backboard. It just like total airball. And instead of just running away or giggling or laughing and thing, I took my other foot and I put that in the court and just said, like, I'm all the way in. And when they eventually found the ball, which was far away, then they passed it to me again. And this was my chance. And I did a layup. This time I actually ran all the way up among them and did a layup. And I was thinking about how reading the room, sometimes we don't step in the court because we just don't think, or maybe we made a rule that we would never be invited to whatever. But what if you assume invitation, but to do it with kindness and respect? Faith is a big deal for me. And there's one of the letters in Peter, and he was saying that to make a defense for the hope that's within you. And I know a lot of people that are pointing bony fingers at each other, but he continues on and he says, but to do everything with kindness and respect. And that's what I want to do. I think that's what was going on. Had I not took one step into the court, I wouldn't have been in the position to connect, and they wouldn't have been in a position to give me the ball. Yeah. And then when I airballed it, and it was a little embarrassing, instead of it like run away because it didn't go the way, I thought, I'm going 2 feet in the court. I want to let them know, like, I'm in. Like, if you're in, I'm in. And so I just think relationally, if we could just, you don't have to go a mile deep, like too far, too fast. Like somebody that makes an elevator speech out of the most horrific thing that's ever happened to anyone in their life. I'm like, oh heavens, like that is a lot to process it, having known you for 1 minute. But to just say, could we just step in, do it with kindness and respect for me, respect for you, and maybe do that with your philanthropy. There might be somebody you're trying to help. Like, just put 1 foot in, right? And then a second foot in. And if you airball it, if it doesn't work the first time, don't make a stupid rule that says, I'm not doing this, or this is only for the cool kids. But to just say, you know what, now I got the ball, take the shot. And evidently I'm not very good at taking the shot from far away. So step a little closer.
So what a great example of that. I love that. I'm just visualizing the whole thing, and it is such a great metaphor for life, because I think people are waiting for us to take a step in.
Yeah. And it can be a little intimidating. Like, you can see, like, these guys, their muscles have muscles. Oh, their tattoos have tattoos. I mean, they're pretty like stout looking guys. And I just thought that wasn't my kindness in stepping in. It was theirs in inviting me. And I think that generally people are a lot more receptive than you might give them credit for. You might be having lived by a rule that doesn't apply anymore, that after a period of time, you're actually they've seen, I've been respectful. I've stepped around their area every single time, but they also know, I know a bunch of guys there. It's like old home week. And they're like, I wonder who this guy is. Yeah.
It reminds me of a conversation you and I had about burning the ships.
Yes. Come on.
Yeah. I was wanting a different response from a group of people, and it dawned on me, I'm not going to get it, but I didn't quite know how to handle it. And I think it was the vulnerability. And I remember you just saying, well, in that case, just burn the ships and move on. Yeah. And I think even the vulnerability, sometimes you don't get someone coming to you. You don't have someone saying, yay, we're glad you're here. You have someone saying, and why are you here again? And we're not really interested in you. And being able to learn how to walk away from that and not demand a certain response. I see vulnerability on both sides, don't you? It takes a certain amount of courage to live that way.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just deciding. Because, Cortez and his troops were famously deciding, should we go back, until the last ship burnt to the ground. Yeah. And I can imagine Cortez saying, any other questions? We're here. And there's something really beautiful about that, to just say, I'm here. Yeah. But instead of, like, some people go through life saying, I'm here, look at me. Another way to go through life is to say, I'm here, let's talk about you.
Mm.
And there's something beautiful um, that comes from being other oriented, to be self-aware enough to know you've taken a hard look at yourself, and you know all your little picadillos and what you're insecure about and why you do some of what you do. But then to say, having resolved some of that, to say, we're here now, let's talk about you.
Mm-hmm.
um, where are you? How did you get here, and where are you headed? I think that's what you do with in your writing, in your coaching, to just say, like, so instead of like, here I am, to say, there you are.
Yeah. One of the ways I say that a lot as I work with leaders is saying, how do we meet people where they're at?
Yeah.
And being able to say, first of all, we have to figure out where they're at. Second of all, we have to have the spirit to be able to say, oh, I guess it's not really about me and my agenda for this group or this individual. It's really about understanding where they're at and where they're coming from, and then meeting them there.
Yeah, that really well trodden phrase, not mine. But you can only take people as far as you've gone yourself. So
Mm,
if you have the courage to go there, then you can take other people along.
mm-hmm.
But we need to just go there. And it can be a little unsettling. A lot of times, this takes figuring out what your relationship with ambiguity is. So
Mm.
I have a good working relationship with ambiguity. Like, we have reached an agreement that we can work
Mm,
together. Things can be terribly ambiguous and we can still be besties. Um, Other
mm.
people don't have a relationship with ambiguity. They're actually seeing other people, and so ambiguity walks in the room and it'd be like, oh, heck no. So understanding if that
Yeah.
is you and you're listening, then to say, hey, what would be a courageous next step? What would be me taking one step into the court on dealing with some ambiguity? Because maybe you're identifying that you're living a really safe, well ordered life, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's lacking some of the adventure that you also desire. And those two can coexist. They aren't pulling in opposite directions.
Mm-hmm.
Safety and security and predictability and adventure don't need to tug in different directions. You can just
Mm.
find a safe way to take the next step, like kind of step in the court and say, what would happen in my life if I got in touch with this, or I faced down some of these things that are actually sometimes referred to as a limiting belief. If I were to face that, confronted it, to say, if I've been living with a sense of scarcity, I'll never have enough, I better plug more into the 401k. Oh my gosh, inflation's going up. Like, that would be a scarcity thought.
Mm-hmm.
And they think over the fence everybody else is nuts, saying it's not scarce. Like, there's so
Mm-hmm.
much, like, wow, like there's everything. I'm trying to purchase a truck at an auction. I've never tried to purchase something in an auction before. And what I'm doing is I'm not bidding it up as it goes. I know the last hour and the last minute of the auction. That's when I'm going to
Mm.
jump in. I'm not going to like bid it up, bid it up, bid it up along the way, because that would just be foolish.
Yeah.
Just to get everybody engaged. So why don't you think of some of the opportunities? And if you're listening now, an opportunity that you've sat it on it. Just bid the big number right now. Just say, go get it. I'm
Mm.
just going to go get it. But I'm self aware enough to know when that auction is ending. I've developed a strategy, which is go all in the last minute. But I'm doing it. I'm pulling the trigger. Other people are looking at the pictures. Like, I'm
Mm.
actually, and truth be known, I'm neither here nor there about the truck. I don't care. I will put people on it at the Oaks. It'll be a fun way to get down to the horses. But but living a life of engagement, if you could just say, how could I live a little bit more engaged in, if
Mm.
you're in a relationship, how could I live a little bit more engaged in that? If you're in business, how can I be a little bit more engaged? If faith is
Mm.
what guides your step, how can I be a little bit more engaged, and develop a plan around that? Because a
Mm.
hope without a plan is just a wish. And I just keep thinking, no more wishing on falling stars and all that. Just put a plan together. Mine, all in last minute of the auction. Uh, this is occupying very little of my conscious time during the day, because I already decided what I'm going to do. here's the number, here's the plan. I'm last minute, I'm offering that. And if it doesn't work, move on. Sun's going to rise and set.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. How do you do it? How do you encounter, like, you have these hopes and desires? How do you craft a plan around it?
Well, you got me thinking about ambiguity, because I like the fact that you said you had to make peace with that. And I think that's another level of required courage. And I think when I work with people, especially when I'm meeting them at the crossroads, a lot of them at these midlife opportunities, what we often call midlife crises. I think what I'm realizing is we don't know what we want yet, but we know what we don't want. And so it just reminds me of a conversation I had today with a gentleman who said, Heather, I want to be a chef, and I've been a cook my whole life. The difference between being a cook and a chef is a cook follows a recipe all the time, and the chef makes his own recipe. And so he was trying to grapple. And I thought it was such a profound metaphor that he lost me probably a couple minutes, because I was just basking in that metaphor going, I get it. That's where I want to meet you then, right? I want to help you become a chef. I don't know how yet, but it starts with getting comfortable with ambiguity. You don't know what you want yet, but we're going to figure out how to get what who you really want to be. And so we had to ask all new questions.
Oh, this is great. I love that. My first thought, it was like more garlic.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great. Yeah, I think we're both foodies, so that you might have gotten me a little stuck on the metaphor. I was like, ooh.
Ooh, I could taste it already.
Yeah.
But I like that there's some people sticking with a metaphor that are looking for a recipe card for carrot sticks. I mean, like, I don't know, carrots.
It's really safe, isn't it?
They're looking for scrambled eggs. Be like, I don't know, eggs scrambled.
Yeah.
Move them around a little bit. But I think there's some things that are easy, and there's some things that are going to take a lot more thought. Why don't we make sure that we're picking off the easy stuff first? Go for the low-hanging fruit, but don't stay picking the low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
It's a great place to start. It's not a great place to finish.
Yep. And instead of asking, what do I do next? Which was not a very helpful question, to be honest, of where he's at. If he's trying to shift from a cook to a chef, he's now trying to ask questions like, what brings me more life? And it moving into these more higher level beliefs that aren't limiting him to be stuck in a cook's role when he wants to be a chef. So he had to be comfortable with that ambiguity of letting go of a role that he knew how to do really well and embracing a new role that is super exciting, but terrifying. But he also feels like if he doesn't try this new role, he won't have lived the life he wants. I think that's where I get excited, because I feel like, and I think you're good at this. And this is where you've come alongside me. Even when we talked about burning the ships, I remember the next conversation, I said, okay, Bob, I burned the ships, but I'm having a hard time not rowing out and just checking them once in a while.
Yes.
And just being able to say it out loud to you, not feeling judged, but being able to say, yep, we don't have to row out there anymore. And I'm like, you're right. We get to go build my life that I want, because it's not one of scarcity. It's one that I have no idea what's out there, but I know something better is waiting for me. And that's what helps me build.
I really like that. The life that you've got, this is for everybody listening. This is what happened today. This is the life you have. And then having some clarity on the life that you want. And it's not a riches, if I were like, conjure it up or manifest it. I'm like, that's outside my experience. And that's not how I see the world. But to say there's the opportunities that you have and the opportunities that you could make. Like, can you make this happen? Could you, if you want to write, like meet with somebody, write them a letter, say, can we meet? I don't care if it's the postman or the Dalai Lama, but just write the letter. Hey, are you available for a 5-minute meeting about whatever? So apply for the job. Don't think about it. Just say, it's different if the headhunter calls you, but why don't you get with a headhunter and say, I think I've got a new groove in me. Education has always appealed to me. Let me know if the presidency of a university comes across. And it ain't going to be Yale. It'll be a small liberal arts college in Kentucky. So to say that opportunity, I'm not going to wait for it to find me. I'm going to make it known to the world. If you get pulled over for speeding, tell the cop, hey, I'm looking for the opportunity to be the president of a small liberal arts. They'll be so puzzled they'll forget to give you a ticket. So, but just let everybody know. Don't like keep it a secret. Like let everybody know.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, you've definitely taught me that, and given me the courage to I think step out into bigger arenas and new ways, because there's this so much more that's waiting for us.
Yeah, somebody said you take these things you want and you speak it into the universe. That just sounds too new agey to me. Just tell the milkman. tell, I don't know, tell the person that is next to you in the evenings.
Yeah.
Like that this is a big ambition that I've got. Tell your friends, tell other people, tell yourself. Get real with the things and the fears and the agreements and all that. Once you've done that work, then let it be known. Don't be keeping a secret what shouldn't be a secret,
Yep.
which is what you want. And then it's crazy. Most people are really helpful. If you told me you wanted to go to Disneyland, I'd give you the address and a ticket. Be like, what else? So there's something really kind of, yeah.
And that's how we met.
Yeah.
When I told people I was going to reach out to you, I had literally people laugh at me saying, that's way too big a shot. And I was like, I want Bob Goff, Maria Shriver, Brene Brown, or Melinda Gates, but I'm going to just start at the top of my list, which is Bob Goff. And so I got on your website and clicked a button.
Easy
and
enough.
And a week later, you and I are chatting, that people are like, what? That really worked? And I just thought, when it's time for you to put yourself out there, yes, you'll fail, but yes, there's also people that are waiting to support your dreams and to help grow it. And we'll never know if we don't ever risk, will
Boy,
we?
ain't that the truth? And then we come up with stupid rules like never go to the grocery store when you're hungry. You're like, if you're hungry, that sounds like a place that has all the food. So,
Yeah.
so revisit some of the rules and to say, I actually am entitled to make these calls. Not am I entitled to want these beautiful things in my life, but to reach out to the people that can help me get there, to read the books like yours that's going to come out, and to just say, what is it that you want, and what's your next move?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's leave the listeners with this, Bob. What do you do to grow your courage?
Well, gosh, showing up is a great way to do it. We talked about the ambiguity that keeps us home sometimes, but to just overcome it, step in the court. Like when we start a new school in a country, I usually don't know anybody, and I buy a plane ticket, and you just step off the place. Oh, step off a plane in Mogadishu, Somalia, where you're the only guy that looks like you around. And the war, it's a civil war right now, and there's a bomb, not every day, but most days. That would be a great place to just try, but you don't have to go across an ocean. What if you go across the street? There's a bunch of people that are trying to figure out life. You have some people that are older than you and younger than you, probably on your block, and to engage them that love your neighbor.
Yeah.
So it sounds noble to go across an ocean, but gosh, the only time in the scriptures you read about that is Jonah got swallowed and Paul got shipwrecked. So what if you say, I'm going to go next door and I'm going to bake a pie for a neighbor, unless you suck at baking pies, then don't. Find something you don't suck at. And then
pie.
if they don't want their pie, I do. And so, but what if you just do these practical next steps, whatever that is? So I know people that can talk a big game, but what if we just say, what if we live a big life?
I love that. Makes me think of your book. The first one I read was Love Always. And I love that book. I think every human, if you could boil it down to one thing, is just looking for more love, don't you?
Yeah. Bingo.
Yeah. So why not be that?
Purpose, connection, couple authentic relationships, to your point. And then we get to create that. We can create the safest place on earth. Somebody said a couple places that were really safe, like Fort Knox and the Seed Vault and all that. But Starbucks can be safe if you make it safe. Mogadishu can be safe if you make it safe. You can just create a safe little bubbles within which people can be honest and authentic. And you create that every time we talk. And I think if you're listening, you can create that for somebody else.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of us realize we have that power, do we?
It's kind of crazy, but it's the biggest hat trick you could do is to just create a safe spot and inhabit it.
Yep. Yep. Well, thank you, Bob.
Hey,
I
great
could talk to
talking
you
to
all
you. This
day.
is
We
good
always have
stuff.
lots of fun stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
and I hope the people that heard something you said and it made them think of something adjacent, that they would actually go and do it. Just don't
mhm,
agree. And you say stuff I agree with all the time, Heather, but then want to actually go do it. Like,
mhm.
take the shot, step in the court, throw your hat over the fence.
Yeah. And take a buddy if you need you.
Yeah, bingo.
Oh, thanks, Bob. So fun
Uh,
talking with you. Thanks for your
hey,
time today.
great being with you. I'll see ya.
All right. Bye bye. Thank you for listening. On this show, we get to talk a lot about concepts that are in my new book, The Life You're Made For, finding clarity, confidence, and courage to be fully alive. And that's what I want, to support every individual and human being alive out there that is wanting more clarity, more confidence, and more courage so that they can step into the life that they're made for. You can find this book on my website, heatherpenny.com. I'm on Amazon, Target, and a lot of places where books are sold. We have it in ebook form, audio form, and also, of course, the trade book or the hardcover if that's something that you're still old school and you're reading it from books like that. Okay, so we'll catch you next time on the Heather Penny Podcast. Take care, everyone.